Welcome to Powered by People, the business podcast from Three Hills that explores how people strategies transform organisations. In each episode, we meet an inspirational business leader accountable for their business's readiness to win in tomorrow's world. I'm your host, Tim Pointer, Chief People Officer and an operating partner at Three Hills, where we work to advance organisational performance across our portfolio of outstanding businesses. Joining me today is Jen Lawrence, Chief People Officer and Executive Coach with an international background in business transformation and people strategy. She has led HR in some of our most loved businesses, from Unilever to Lindt and Sprüngli to Virgin Atlantic. Jen has also worked as a people consultant in PE-backed businesses and as a coach to leaders seeking a winning formula. Chartered Fellow of the CIPD, she led her team to a top 5 place in the UK's Great Place to Work rankings and to overall winner of the Business Culture Awards. Let's go hear from Jen. Jen, welcome to Powered by People.
Thank you very much, Tim. Nice to see you as well.
Lovely to see you too. The brands that you have worked with and the businesses that you have worked as part of the executive team to steer, it's really quite a who's who. Is there something about brand and that connection to consumer that really attracts you to an organisation?
I think it definitely has helped in terms of where I love to be able to connect into an organisation, actually. So I suppose my CV has got a bit of eat it, drink it or consume it attached to it. I don't think my children actually thanked me when I left Lindt eventually to pursue another career alternative with Virgin Atlantic at that time. But I think being able to see what you do in HR and the difference you can make, which can be transmitted straight into business results, is really powerful.
A connection to purpose all the way through, that you're a purpose-led leader who seeks purpose-led organisations. Now, am I making that up or is that true?
I genuinely think that I've seen purpose live and breathe inside organisations. So when I was lucky enough to work for Unilever, which was going on this journey of purpose, it was wonderful to see how people got behind a common cause and that energy and inspiration that it brought within a culture to really help transform and take people on a journey. And I know purpose has got a bit of a knocking over the years, and some companies have had a go at it and it hasn't worked for them, and people move on to what is the next thing then. But I genuinely think if you can help an organisation of people get behind a mission or something of a greater good, you can really make a difference, both through how people love coming to work and also how they can be at their best when they're at work too.
We first met through the Business Culture Awards.
That's right.
When you and your team were the overall winners with the work that you were leading at Lindt. So taking that experience that you'd had at a Unilever and then working with a brand that your children, my children, and I would say 99% of the people listening to this podcast absolutely love, and how you supercharge that organisation.
It was quite an exciting journey, actually, because we were having a few changes in the leadership group, and so we came together quite naturally to go on a bit of a journey. What I don't think we estimated was how powerful that journey became. So I think sometimes putting something like a leadership development program and hooking it into a business benefit can be really powerful. And in our case, we used our leadership program, crashed the hierarchies. We had different layers in the business going through the journey with us, and actually helped us to define who we were. We were trying to capture the essence of what Lindt and Sprüngli was about. And we did that very powerfully by talking about making people feel special. So whether that was looking after yourself, whether it was about families, if you think about you kind of buy chocolate at various times throughout the year for, Easter and the iconic bunny. But then obviously there was a kind of another part to the organisation about paying it forward and helping other people to feel special, whether that's gifting and giving chocolate from a consumer point of view, but also how we could pay it forward as in our culture as well. So that journey was fantastic. And I think the CEO at the time, great guy, Job Boaz, said to me, I want us to be a great place to work. And at that time, we were entering competitions like that. And we just weren't getting anywhere. And I think actually getting everyone and galvanizing them behind a purpose really helped people really understand what we were about and the benefits both in the culture, but also for our wider consumer suppliers. It was endless where it actually ended up rippling out into the wider world, actually.
knowing that story, the way that connected, both in terms of your colleagues, but also in terms of your consumers, and in terms of the business partners that you relied upon to deliver your products, and also back to the group, the global group, sort of, and the investment part of it as well. Can you just tease that story out for us, please? Because I think that multi-stakeholder piece is fascinating.
Possibly on a kind of level with the sales force. What they were doing was literally taking this and making it their own. So I think if you can help an organisation culture grow from within, yes, it's got to have the passion of the leadership at the top, but if you let people feel empowered to lead for something, it's amazing what the results can look like. So we had sales teams just going out and putting little bags on people's cars saying, have a nice day, making you feel special. Or I remember there were some attacks at the London Bridge, and one of the team went out their way to go and give the police, who were obviously doing a tough job at that time, and giving them some chocolate just to kind of know that and thank them for the work they were doing. So it's sort of filtered out in different ways in that regards. And then I suppose from the greater good, we established our values. That then got picked up globally, and we were starting to then have a common language. And then obviously the work that we did then filtered into the wider Lindt group. And so actually we created this great force for good, which then was adopted in other countries as well, which was a fantastic.
Sometimes in organisations there can be a little bit of not invented here. And when you are part of a global group, a global brand, there's that sense of, hang on, sorry, what are you doing over there?
Yeah.
How I signed off on every single comma and full stop of that communication, and how does that fit into my global strategy, everything else?
Yes.
But for what you're describing there, it feels that there was a willingness to understand that great ideas can happen anywhere.
Absolutely. And I think this was working very closely with other parts of the organisation. So it wasn't an HR-driven piece. It had marketing within it very clearly, in sales, and even in the supply chain, we were finding ways of working with our suppliers and our third parties just to help show how we could work closer together with that mindset. So there was definitely opportunities that were picked up in the States and Canada, for example, that very quickly picked up our values and adapted them slightly. But there was a real core that sat through all of the countries that were starting to pick this up, which was really exciting to see.
So you've got a clarifying of purpose, you've got a change in your executive leadership team, and also from what you're describing, then that development of your leaders coming through as well. What was your business intent? What were you driving towards?
Profit follows purpose. So actually, when you have a really galvanized plan, and this was something else that we realized as well, is that if people understand where you're trying to get to, if you can't put your business plan on one page and be able to communicate it to your people, it's lost in the ether. And I think you and I have had a chat about strategy and culture and, the classic Peter Drucker phase of that goes with that. But I think you've got to help people really understand where we're trying to get to. But I think we made a massive transformational shift, just being able to put something on a page that said, this is what we're going for this year, communicating it really clearly. And look, I'm not about to say that all the culture work we did was responsible for all the benefits, but we doubled the size of the business profitability. We hit our growth targets. 91% of people said it was a great place to work. We increased our employee referrals by 75%. We became a top 5 great place to work in 5 years, which was an accolade coming from nothing. So, people really built onto the trust of the organisation. It was stealth-like, it took a while to get there. And I think that's something to remember, is that quite often there's an impetus and an impatience to move on to doing something else. But if you can stick with something and really let the culture grow from within and take ownership, it really can be incredibly beneficial. And even small actions can make a really big difference.
What's the balance between the direction that's coming from the executive team and the autonomy that you're seeking to build, so that people can give product away, that they can think, I think this is the right thing to do in this moment, and I know that I will be backed in my decision making?
And I think that was very much led from the leadership ethics, actually, of do the right thing and we will always support you. And also there was a bit of sense of try something and be okay with making mistakes. And I think this is still something that feels quite alien to a lot of people, is that a lot of it's in our heads, our belief, can we do it or not? And actually, if people are given a chance to experiment and have a little bit of autonomy and try something, it's incredible the momentum that comes within. And we had a bit of a saying, we had like everyone needs an Alex in their company, so like an inner person that gets everyone going. And I think we paid for Alex to do her PT, and then suddenly Alex was getting groups together to do fitness and exercise, and that led on to some charity events and so forth. But because it was so supported and people felt like they were given the trust to go with things and make a difference, I believe that genuinely made a difference to how people then took this all forward.
When you look back on that now, what wisdom would you have given yourself on day one at the start of that journey?
Believe in myself and just go with it, because actually for everything we tried and we innovated with, it just led to something even better. So just go out there and challenge yourself and keep challenging yourself to make a difference.
So just going back to the leadership development that you put in across the business, can you just tell us a bit more about that? How are you supporting people to progress and what the results of that was?
So we worked really closely with the Bridge Partnership, and we were really keen to do something that was a bit transformational and different with our leadership. We didn't want them to go through the same story of workshops, etc. So we made it really immersive for them. And actually, by thinking about some of the things that we were sharing with the leadership team, we also rolled that down the organisation. So we created a programme called Be At Your Best, which everybody got the benefit of. And we trained a number of us internally to be able to run that programme. So we changed the culture there. But I thought what was quite interesting was we offered coaching, and we started that momentum at the time to really try and help give women a bit more of a voice, give them some more confidence. I think it's now predominantly female-led leadership team, which I think is a great result in terms of supporting and encouraging and nurturing great leadership, both for males and females, but good to see females coming through as well, particularly in roles like finance and sales, where perhaps historically had more of a male-orientated dominance.
And it comes back to the point you made a few moments ago, which is sometimes that push for results, for an immediate change, you have to explain and understand that this work is going to take time.
Totally. And I think it's having that patience and putting those metrics in place just to keep going, yes, we're going in the right direction, or actually we need to make a few changes. I think sometimes strategy is thought of as this plug and play, and once it's written, it stays static. And actually adapting, evolving, moving with the times, it's a constantly evolving document. But as long as everybody understands what that plan on the page looks like and gets behind it, I think it can really help make an organisation thrive.
You were at Lindt for 5 years.
Yes.
And what did you look for when you were thinking about that next challenge? What was calling you? The
reason I left Lindt, actually, I was headhunted into Virgin Atlantic, which is always lovely for the ego. But in truth, it was the number 2 to the CPO role there. And it was heading up the business partnering function, which was something that was, again, a different change on my CV. And I wanted to have a bit of an opportunity to do something a bit different. So I went straight from chocolate to travel. So different kind of perks, I suppose, and in other ways. But it was a really interesting organisation, again, with a purpose-led mission, I suppose, trying to help consumers have a most loved journey when they're going on their holidays and travels with work and so forth. So really brought into what their customer experience was about. But I think what was really interesting about the job I was offered was to look at the people experience side and the people journey. And this transformation project that I was asked to get involved in was really exciting, because I don't think many organisations think to connect the customer bit and the people bit and to take the learnings out of both. And there was this creation of something called the double helix, which was almost a bit of a kind of DNA, if you remember your biology days. But it was that kind of where are all the bits that slot in together, where one's in service of the other. So it was the customer journey and the experience that they were getting. There were great learnings that weren't necessarily always getting transmitted across into the people side of the organisations.
And can you give us some examples of what those touch points were for colleague and customer?
We probably talked to, everyone from pilots through to crew to HR, unions, leaders. So we basically got about 750 different touch points and experiences all up on a wall. And then we probably got about, 350 different insights, which was a bit overwhelming, if I'm honest. But when we looked at the whole journey, we then realised that there were moments that really matter. And unless you fly, you may not know that the crew that come together on a plane haven't necessarily ever worked together. So you've got to look at all the experiences and the moments that matter to help the crew want to be at their best when they're serving people. You've got to try and help find all those moments that matter to them, whether it's how they get into the airport, which is a bit of a labyrinth anyway. If it's your first day on the job, how do you get looked after, right through to, being a seasoned crew member. So looking at all those touch points along the way really helped us to then identify the moments that were a bit broken in the process, where they were perhaps a bit strained, and also what we were doing really well. And actually on the customer side, they were doing the same thing too. So together we actually created a few really important moments. So believe it or not, when you go on the plane, sometimes you want to sleep. And for customers, that is like a major importance for them, and for crew too, because they're going down to different places, they're on different timelines, but also they need to be able to feel rested so that they can be at their best as well. So we looked at that as an integral part. Communication was another. So we were getting lots of feedback from the customer side about either complaints or things that weren't working very well. But also we were getting feedback from the people as well, saying, hey, this is what we could do differently as well. And joining those two bits up together made a big difference. So an example of that, we had the new airplanes built, and the loft was a very big, funky new design that went into the kind of the left-hand side. So if you turned left, you'd know where we're going. And in that...
Is this the circular bar?
Yes, exactly. But we realised that our people weren't being trained to necessarily offer all the best perks of being in the loft. So our customers were going, well, it's an okay, it's a great experience, but we knew we could make it even better. So actually by getting that feedback and then plugging it back into the learning experience, we could really help our people to be at their best. So if you can feel knowledgeable and know all the information and what's available to customers, then you're offering a great experience at the same time.
I thought that was such an interesting innovation from the customer side, because it felt that the lounge experience and the flight experience had just been connected, because the environment really was a mirror image of the other. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm still in that lounge experience. I've still got that sense, even though I'm 35,000 feet. Was there anything else in terms of the connectivity for the colleagues in terms of on the ground, in the air, that was also being joined up?
We wanted people to feel that whole transition through from start to finish. So even if you knew it was someone's birthday, the crew knew about that when you got on board, and it was already thought about, and there was a card or a little kind of cake or something there for the person to feel very special. So all those little tiny touch points and moments that matter were really important. And I think actually one of the things I always thought was very impressive was the culture that people really wanted to do a good job as well, and were really passionate. I mean, COVID hit the airline at 100 miles an hour, obviously, but the passion people showed, regardless of where they were in that journey and what they had to go through all the time, I really felt that it was about trying to help do the right thing for the customer, whatever that would look like. And again, it's an experience, I suppose, of a thread through Lindt here as well. If you empower people to just go, find the right answer that helps that customer have a great experience, more often than not, they're going to get it right for you.
And how did you spot the moments that matter for colleagues? So what did they experience when it was their birthday, for example? We were starting to get there. We were starting to look at things that were small, like the uniform and getting that right for people, or making sure that when they were out of the UK, we were doing what we could to support them with mental health and other reasons, because being away from home can be quite challenging, actually, more than we probably realised at the beginning. We also really helped with a sense of belonging, and one of the first airlines to say, you don't have to wear this prescriptive makeup or wear this particular uniform. You need to belong and want to feel part of something. People were given the attention at Virgin to be themselves and feel like they could belong, which I think was very powerful. And that brand, I mean, it's an incredible brand. Obviously, it's, the Virgin brand's been stretched with so many different products and services and experiences. But I think the way that the brand was then taken forward by that diversity of, look, the uniform, how we wear the uniform.
Yeah.
And it's so different to some of the very stiff and structured approach to airline service that we're used to. It felt so much freer, but to also put your people at the heart of that marketing. So it's not, I think it's so fascinating that it wasn't a brand-led campaign. It was a colleague-led campaign.
Yeah.
With the brand sort of sitting behind that.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do that, it's going to be true.
Yeah.
That's a massive risk to put that out there, because you know that people are going to really get behind it and say, I see this, but you should go further.
Yeah.
You know, that some people are going to react against it. How do you sit at the heart of that and find what's true for your brand, your travellers and your team?
You know, not everyone was comfortable with some of Virgin's approaches. I know that. I think they were always known to be a little bit pushing the boundaries of cheekiness anyway. So I think there was an element of understanding, but, you know, they've helped the industry come a long way with that sense of I am who I am. And, you know, whether it was being able to wear a tattoo and not feel embarrassed for it, or, you know, I think they were one of the first airlines to really get hold of a flight going out to America, the Pride, in Pride. And they just really wanted to be at the forefront of that challenge and change. If we're going to create environments of inclusivity and belonging, we've got to still recognise that there is individualism, and we've got to help people to be at their best. And that's by being able to be themselves in their most authentic way.
Of course, you mentioned COVID, where the whole sector just comes to a stop. How do you navigate the business teams which are global, different situations in different countries, different expectations, different timings? How do you plot through that?
I mean, I really hope we never have to do something like that again. I mean, I guess from an industry, I mean, everyone was impacted. So, you know, we just saw it fast, really fast. I remember the CEO saying, this is going to be the biggest thing that's hit us. I remember someone else say, oh, you know, it's only a bit like SARS. He went, no, I'm going to stop you right now. He said, this is going to really change everything. And it did. And I've never seen anything quite like it. In a couple of weeks, things were being shut down left, right and centre. Our main source of income obviously had gone. We were relying on cargo to get us opportunities. Obviously, there was asked of government support. You know, Richard Branson was asked to sell his island. You know, there was all those kinds of expectations that we could get ourselves out of this trouble. And heading up the business partner function, we were pretty integral in making a lot of these changes happen as well. In truth, we had to take 40% out of cost in the business in a very short amount of time. So one of the biggest transformations we've had to do, try to do it in the kindest way that we possibly could, whether that was initially through VS or whether we could try and help people who wanted to leave to do so. We also did quite a lot of really good stuff internationally as well, but mostly in the UK to try and help people find alternative employment. You know, crew are highly trained in so many ways to be able to help in the medical world, and so many of them went and helped the NHS. We were able to reallocate roles. We tried to offer roles back to people when we said the time's come back. So we tried to honour that. And it was trying to make the best of a tricky time. I mean, equally, we had to make some pretty cool, big decisions in the business, which I think under any other circumstance, we probably wouldn't have been able to do. So whilst they were cruel and fast, they were also really needed and probably helped for the longevity of Virgin Atlantic as a result of that, whether that's having to leave Gatwick and move to Heathrow and such like things, or shut down some of our other international parts of our destinations, which perhaps were ones that were slightly coming to a close anyway. So, but yes, I mean, trying to do it in a way that was the most kindest was always at the heart of our approach. Certainly in the business partnering, we did our most to try and help do that in a way that got the result the business needed to keep running, but equally looking after people along the way.
I think so many organisations gained a deeper understanding of what the HR profession needs to balance through COVID, because it was that mix of how do we ensure that the business survives? And it was, I mean, Virgin Atlantic and for so many others, a time of survival. and that a business comes out in with some health, with some impetus.
Absolutely.
At the same time as looking after our colleagues, understanding the impact that was affecting all of them in terms of their families, their concerns about health, their concerns about more physical health, mental health. It's a very difficult dance to dance.
Totally. And one of the things I would say got me through it was having such an amazing HR business partner team behind me. So when I joined, I probably had maybe 8 vacancies out of a team of 11. I'd questioned what I'd walked into. And at the end, there were times where my team, absolutely, we had each other's backs, and we were up at 2:00 in the morning. We had a clear purpose. We knew what we wanted to do together as a business partnering team. All the way through that building blocks, I still think fundamentally is what got us as a team through COVID. We absolutely spent time together. Every month we had really strong meetings where we talked about projects we were working on. We did headspace sessions. We coached each other. We brought learning that we'd all learned from different things because we didn't have big budgets. So we went off and learnt for ourselves and then brought it back and taught each other.
How fast we have to learn to be effective.
Totally, absolutely. And you know what? I could have stayed at Lindt, but I don't think I would be the person I am today without some of the war wounds on the arms and somewhere else. And definitely a few more white hairs.
And so moving on from Virgin, you've extended yourself in lots of different ways. You've taken on consultancy roles, you've progressed your coaching and your coaching qualifications, you've worked with an array of different organisations. I know how curious you are and how much you love to learn. What would you share?
An appetite for learning is so powerful because actually I've turned corners, I've learned things about myself, I have developed other teams as well. I've seen trends and themes as well, which has been really helpful in different organisations to help them sort of say, you're okay, others are facing this too, you're not alone. Through to, developing myself personally with coaching, becoming a coach supervisor as well and doing some team coaching, which I love. I've always loved being on the front end of HR. I think there's so much more progressive opportunities when you're helping organisations to look at what they need to do rather than prevent. If we're working in the past and looking reactively, the prevention is so much more powerful. Actually, why is this happening and what needs to change to make a transformation happen in the culture or leadership or where it needs to be? That's my ethos, really.
So take us into one of the projects from your portfolio phase.
So I've been working with a tech company, which is private equity based, backed actually, and they asked me to come in and help them develop their leadership and their wider team. They were struggling with a problem, which I don't think is uncommon, where you have a leadership team and perhaps an extended leadership team. They're the next layer down, basically, the reports in. And quite often what I'm picking up is the leadership team get frustrated because they think they've got this bunch of leaders and they're just not always developing and doing what they need to do to help the business survive. And I quite often hear the phrase of, we know what we want to do with the strategy, but I just don't understand why this layer underneath isn't delivering it. And I remember reading somewhere actually that your strategy is one thing, but actually the hard bit is taking strategy into action. So it hasn't mattered whether it's a big organisation or a small one. I've seen this trip up time and time again in businesses. And what I really enjoy doing is helping the leadership team get very clear on their strategy and get their plan on a page, and then helping the layer underneath it work out who they are, where they deliver, and how they can add the value as well, and how they can be empowered and literally manage upwards and help the leadership team to do what they need to do and enable these guys to get on and actually deliver the strategy.
So often the time isn't spent sufficiently with middle management team to connect across the organisation effectively.
Totally. So sometimes it's a lack of clarity. Sometimes that team is actually not a team, it's a group of individuals. So, anything more than 8 is really starting to become dysfunctional as a team because you just can't get a group of people to make decisions in that way. So then what I often come across is a group that's frustrated because they come together, have a chat, they information share, which is they all complain that they could do on an email in 5 minutes. And then they haven't really felt like they've added any value. And then the leadership team above them then go off and make the decisions again. So you go around in this very frustrated circle. So and sometimes actually that middle layer isn't equipped with some of the leadership qualities and skills. I spend a lot of time helping with things like feedback skills and how to have honest conversations, how to coach each other and support each other in a more effective way. So as part of that, what we did was we first of all defined actually those two groups. So what does the leadership team want to do and what's the extended team's role? Getting very super clear on actually how do we work together? So what's our ways of working between those two groups as well? And a lot of that, if you look at some of the work of Lencioni, for example, all of that basics of trust is right in there. So how do you make sure that you trust each other that you're working with, as well as you trust the team above you and sometimes below you as well? It's a whole circle, isn't it? There's always systems within systems, isn't there? So what I found really impactful was getting this wider team to get very clear on their purpose, what they wanted to stand for, and almost aligning that with the leadership team. So we had a wider session after that with them as well. And we got clear on this is what we want to do. We got super clear on the strategy. And then what we all agreed was that every quarter, we would break the strategy down on a plan on a page each quarter. And we would do a bit of a session looking at a retro. So what have we achieved in the quarter that's just been? And what do we want to go forward with thereafter? And some of their frustrations where the leadership team just go, well, we want you to deliver this. And they would go, well, hang on a second, we've got a day job, we've got this, we've got that going on. So actually using a simple tool, actually like a RACI, really helped them to work out who was going to be accountable for each of these pillars within the plan for that quarter, who wanted to be responsible, who needed to be consultant informed, and was there anybody else missing? And basically we locked.
And just remind us all, the RACI, the RACI.
Oh, yeah. So responsible, accountable, consultant informed. So only one person can be accountable, which is sometimes where things go wrong as well.
So if I'm accountable and you're accountable, we're not accountable.
We can both go and have a cup of tea.
Wonderful.
So getting super clear on who was doing what and getting these groups almost to have like a mini breakout within the day where they would do a retro on what they'd achieved in the last quarter, celebrate wins, because that's sometimes forgotten very quickly, and shared with therefore the wider organisation, and then also what we needed to work on for the quarter ahead. And getting them to share learnings as well. So actually some of the powerful stuff that's come out of these ongoing now quarterlies is that the team are starting to learn from each other, like, oh, you did it that way. Hey, you've already got a solution that we didn't know you had. That's great. We can learn from that quickly. So actually getting super clear on where we're trying to go in the plan. And they now achieve, I reckon they've gone from 40% achieving of the plan to 70% in the course of a year. But the feedback I get is that they feel now very aligned because they're all in it together. They trust each other. They call each other out on their behaviours. We've done some work along the way. So again, not here's a leadership programme spending several days or whatever, but we've integrated the most key parts of the leadership skills and really helped to get them to practice it in this safe environment to then keep going forward, evolving as a team. And one of the things at the start, actually, the CEO said is if anyone doesn't want to be on this extended team, you have permission to leave. And we've not lost anybody.
That point about wins and actually taking the time to notice wins. And, you've worked internationally, and as have I, and you see the different way that people celebrate success.
Yeah.
And someone said recently, I think we need to be a little bit more American about this, because it's like someone just had this fantastic result, and someone said, "Oh, that's good," and there was and immediately moved on.
Right.
And I'm thinking, when I used to work with my team in California or New York, there'd have been whooping, there'd have been a hollering, there'd have been a banging on the table, there'd have been backslapping, there'd have been a real acknowledgement of this thing. This guy worked for 9 months, and it's just like a pre-existing relationship of a couple of years to get to that point.
Totally.
But that's the British Reserve was like,
well done.
And it is that constant desire to move forward, but you have to just give some time to recognition, and that's true in all human relationships. Just take a breath. Acknowledge it, give someone a moment, understand a bit about the individual, because some people want to be dragged up on stage and some people would rather run away than to have that experience.
Totally agree.
And then the other element that you talked about there was that building that psychological safety, because your point about the ability to hold one another to account.
Yes.
And if I'm not getting what I need from you, Jen, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm going to remind you. I'm going to follow up because we're a team and we're getting the job done. I'm not criticising you.
Yeah.
No one's taking offence. We're just seeking to get the work done because that's what we signed up to do.
Yes. It's such a powerful point because that way of working I'm not picking on something you've done. I'm trying to help you by understanding why it hasn't happened so I can get commitment and we can be accountable together to get those results. And I think some of that came from actually spending a bit of time getting to know the person. And I know it sounds really basic, but actually it really surprises me how many leadership teams work together but don't really know each other.
Absolutely.
Some feel very uncomfortable about doing things like check-ins. But, I've come across some really good things across my time. The User Manual by Cassie Robinson is a really beautiful way of just getting people to discover what they like, what they get feedback on, how they like to be communicated with, what they like doing in their own time. And just really breaking that down so that people just spend time getting to know the real person because we're in it together. And it back to that kind of Virgin comment I said where I just really feel like everyone's got your back. Then you don't have to worry about is this political? Is it something else going on here? We're out here to get success.
Why do you think we often back away from that sense of actually taking some time to really get to know each other?
I think it's a miss sometimes. I just don't think it's necessarily called out enough. Some people do feel uncomfortable. There is an element of I come to work, this is me at work and this is me out of work potentially. And I genuinely think there's a time thing. So there's a quick, come on, we've got to get on. Where are we missing? What do we need to work on? Rather than actually, how are we working together and how are you and what is going on? And I just feel that leadership teams where I've worked in where that little bit of effort and that little bit of energy is put into that as well as getting the business results is where the secret sauce happens.
And it unlocks results. It's that sense of if you want to work faster, work more effectively, and also be able to unlock effort in moments of pressure, having a deeper understanding of your colleagues is going to enable you to do that.
Absolutely. And it is some of that Lencioni work. It is about having, I trust you. I'm okay calling you out on things because we need to have healthy conflict. That's not always a British thing for sure. But, really looking out for each other with then a commitment, like I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do and you're going to do what you say you're going to do. Great. Now we hold each other to account and we get results. I mean, it isn't much more complicated than that really. But that is where I've seen results. And I've worked in some fab teams and where that's been there, it's been a real joy to come to work. So if I was to leave with 3 things of help, I would say the first one is really help your people with a very clear plan on a page. Like, where are you trying to get to? Don't worry if it's called a purpose, something else, but just get that North Star, but be really clear how you were trying to transform the organization. So people really buy into not what you do, but why you do it, to call a Simon Sinek phrase out. I also believe you need to invest in your teams. So really like how to be at your best. So look at your team coaching. How is that evolving itself? How is that really helping to enable a culture to thrive? Because if you get that piece right, you will get really great business results. And my last piece of real advice is around being authentic, like really working to be the leader you want to be. And because if you shine and you take people with you, not only do they have your back, but they will enable you to unlock great results and you achieve more as well. So believe in yourself, and the best is yet to come.
Great insights. Jen Lawrence, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Please follow Powered by People, podcasts from 3 Hills on people-powered business transformation on LinkedIn or wherever you access your podcasts. Join us next time for more inspirational insight from people leaders who craft people-first approaches that enhance revenue, profitability, and long-term value creation. I will see you next time for more Powered by People.